how are we going to create custom objects in JavaScript. Today also we are going to continue on the same session. And see, in JavaScript there is two ways that we can use objects. One is to prepare a data, another one is to wrap a data into a single unit. For encapsulation purpose also we use objects. To store the information we will also use objects. Now, how many types that we can create objects? That is what we had a discussion yesterday. One is literal way, second one is constructor way, and third one is using predefined objects. So in general, in the live examples, when we are working on a project, max to max we are going to use constructor way if you wanted to create a multiple instances, and if you want to go for a single instance, we are going to use literal way. These two ways that we are going to use it. And here I would like to explain more about inheritance today. Since we discussed about encapsulation, one of the important principles which is there in object-oriented JavaScript, inheritance. How are we going to inherit? First of all, what is inheritance? In the same example, I am going to explain, my dear friends. Guys, listen carefully. So I would like to give inheritance. In other programming languages, inheritance has different types: single level, multiple, multi-level, hybrid, and hierarchical. Whereas coming to JavaScript, it is not fully object-oriented. JavaScript supports only a partial object-oriented. Maybe moving forward in upcoming versions, JavaScript will also support fully object-oriented principles. Now here, since JavaScript also supports a partial object-oriented principles, out of all the inheritance types, JavaScript support only single level inheritance. Now let me talk about what is single level inheritance. How JavaScript is going to implement single level inheritance. If the people who are coming from Java background or C++ background, you might have heard about extends keyword or implements keyword in order to inherit the properties of one class into another class. First of all, what is inheritance? Let me give a definition of what is inheritance. Acquiring a properties and methods of base class derived class. Guys, I'm just giving you one real-time example. Many people, you people are good at relationships. If your father is already owning a car, so if you would like to utilize the car, or if you want to, go to your long drive, then you can also make use of whatever the property that is already been owned by your father. Instead of buying a new car, you are extending the features of existing car and you are utilizing the features and methods or properties of your parent. So what is the advantage of accessing properties or members of a parent for code reusability? You need not to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already invented. The main advantage of going for object-oriented principles, which are going to help developer to make his life more beautiful. And even if you are going for inheritance, many places when you are working on real-time applications, you may need some functionality to be used again and again. Instead of recreating the functionality from the scratch, you can even wrap them into a single class. As and when, if the requirement demands, you can also make use of those properties and member functions. So that is what the main advantage of going for inheritance. Inheritance also, as discussed, multiple types: single, multiple, multi-level, hybrid, and hierarchical. I don't want to waste my time and your time to talk about other inheritance since it is not supported by JavaScript. So let me talk about single level inheritance. Guys, prototypal approach, prototypal object oriented. It is not classical approach. Even ECMAScript 5, ES5 version of a JavaScript supports prototypal inheritance. It won't support classical inheritance. Now you should also understand what is prototypal inheritance. what is classical inheritance. But if you are using a class keyword to create a class, then you can go for a classical inheritance. Since ECMAScript 5 JavaScript version did not support class keyword, that is where we are using function keyword to create a class. Wherein since function keyword we have used to create a class, we are using prototypal approach. Now you see here the main use of advantages of inheritance, code reusability. Code reusability. Next, you see here ECMAScript note. You guys have to remember note. ES5 JavaScript supports prototypal inheritance. You should understand what is prototypal inheritance. Whereas ES6 plus JavaScript supports classical inheritance. You guys have to understand both of them. What is prototypal? What is classical? This is very important. Now, end of the day, inheritance objective is acquiring the properties or methods of one class into another class. Now, the base class is also called as parent class. Derived class is called as child class. Next, how are we going to use prototypal inheritance? You please try to understand. So now my class name is product. In our example, my class name is product. Now I am inheriting. So product, my class name, dot prototype is a keyword. Dot, guys, this prototype keyword inherit the properties or member functions of existing class. Here product is another example. Now you see single level, we are inheriting the same class by using a prototype, and for the same class we are planning to add new properties or a new member functions. Then this is a kind of acquiring a properties of my existing class, so same class. For the same class you are adding new properties and new member functions. It sounds like single level inheritance. Prototype. Now product name is there, product model is there, product price is there, product discount. If you wanted to add that parameter is equal to, I'm going to use 20% or 30% discount, whatever, just an example. Hope you people are aware of it. In case the product category, product class, by using a prototype is a keyword, dot add product. One more member function that I am adding is equal to function of. So we are going to write adding product. Logic will place it here. I don't want to write logic. Here you guys have to understand line number 58 and line number 59, which will try to share the information. For example, for a same class, earlier 3 properties are there, 2 member functions are there. Now by using a prototype keyword, additionally we are adding 1 property. Additionally we are also adding 1 more member functions. Now if you closely observe, this prototype keyword is inheriting the existing class, and which is allowing us to add a new property or a new member function into your existing class, which is also sounds like a one single level inheritance in JavaScript. That is where the people who are coming from completely C or C++ background, the people are going to face difficulties to understand what is this prototype. But here I'm just giving you a complete description, guys. If you are good at any language. Now the concept remains same, but the way how are we implementing, it might vary from one language to another language. Okay, so now there is no multi-level and there is no multiple hybrid hierarchical. All this inheritance won't even support at this stage in ES5 JavaScript. When you are going for ES6, see JavaScript initially, I'll tell you my dear friends, 1995 JavaScript has released into the market. But from that day to almost 2010, 2011, JavaScript was used only for validating user input and allowing user to interact with the web page. There was no much more logic that was not written in JavaScript. Since 2011 onwards, the web applications and mobile applications, development of web and mobile application drastically increased. That is where the popularity of a JavaScript program has increased like anything. Now today, if you search JavaScript, one of the topmost, hottest technology in the market. The reason is which improves the performance of a web page. Now everywhere, unlike all, see, you people are also, you need a job. Everybody need a job, but without putting the efforts, we will expect a good jobs. Is that possible? We don't have a patience with us. Generally, students won't have patience, and they need lakhs of packages without putting efforts. That is highly impossible. Similarly, those who are website visitors, those who are accessing a web or mobile applications, if the websites or a mobile application is not performing a data, if it is not serving the data as quickly as possible, the website users are going to lose the interest. So that's why earlier people are writing too much of code in middleware. By that time, see, in your, for example, now you see guys, in your village, if there are multiple options are there, in the sense, if one option is not working well, you will go for second option or third option, fourth option. But think that you have only one shop in your village, and that village guy, whatever the rates that he asks you to pay, you must have to pay. Why? Because there is no other option for you to buy. But whereas coming to the town and cities, if one guy says highest price, you do have still option to go for another. Similarly, when you guys are building a web application or a mobile application, if your application is not working well, I'm sure the users are going to close your application. They will go for another alternative application which serves the data as quickly as possible. To avoid these kind of problems, to attract the users, to ask user to stay back, to reduce the bounce rate of an application, that is where you must have to improve the website performance. The performance matters a lot. So to improve the performance, JavaScript, earlier instead of writing too much of code in middleware, we have to write all the business logic. Important business logic, you have to keep it inside a middleware, and unimportant business logic, you have to keep it in client side. And one simple example I'll give. For example, if I'll ask you to join with me for a coffee. So if you are a decision maker, directly you can give an answer saying that yes sir, let's join, let's go. Or else you can also say that no sir, I have work, because you are a final decision maker. In case if you are not final decision maker, if you are depending on your parents or guardian or somewhere else, now the moment when I requested, you guys have to take my request, you have to process that request back to your server. Either it may be your parents or it may be your guardian. So until your parent and guardian responds, either it may be a positive response or it may be a negative response. And I in the sense who has requested, he has to wait until the response comes. The response is not processing in the same layer wherever the request is placed. If you are writing such kind of application, I am sure that application is going to fail. That is the reason now everybody are writing a code in the application presentation layer itself. So that is where 10 years before there was a huge demand for a middleware programmers like Java, .NET, Python, PHP. Now there is a huge demand for JavaScript developers. Every dog has a day. Now JavaScript day is going on. Okay, so that's all and about inheritance, my dear friends. I just gave you one simple example for you to understand. Now you see here P discount, which we have added for a product class, add product, which we have added for our product class. Now the instances which we have already created yesterday, the 4 instances that we have created. Instance 1 POBJ, second instance POBJ1, POBJ2, POBJ3. By using any one of the instance, you still have an accessibility to get P discount property and add product. Why? Because we inherited the existing class and we have added a new properties to the definition of existing class. This sounds like inheritance, single level inheritance. Okay, so that's all about inheritance in JavaScript. Don't even think that object-oriented JavaScript is such a bigger concept. Guys, JavaScript is very, very lightweight. Java is heavyweight. Java, it's a combination of, Bay of Bengal and Pacific Sea. But whereas come to JavaScript, it is just, a small canal. I can say it is a small, because the concepts which are there in JavaScript, it is limited compared to Java. But I'm not saying, I'm comparing with Java. But now slowly the JavaScript utility and the features of JavaScript is drastically increasing day by day. And JavaScript, you can also build mobile applications using JavaScript. You can also build web applications. You can also build middleware as well. If you wanted to build middleware, then Node.js you must have to learn. If you wanted to build mobile applications, you have to go for React Native or Ionic or Angular. By using these front-end frameworks, we can also build mobile applications as well. That's why a JavaScript developer, a typical JavaScript developer can even work on front-end of a web applications as well as mobile applications as well as desktop application. That's why the front-end developers are always in demand in the market. So you please try to understand the concepts. Now again, I'm repeating, my dear friends, the procedure-oriented concepts till functions, all the concepts comes under procedure-oriented. And what is object-oriented? As we already discussed, object-oriented principles are 4. One is the abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, and inheritance. Okay, whereas coming to these 4 principles, which is mandatory nowadays for every developer has to understand. Why? Because when we are working on bigger applications, we need these object-oriented principles to be used. If you are not using these object-oriented principles, it is very tough for us to build a bigger applications. Okay, now I hope you are aware of what is the use of prototypal approach. That is why in ES5 JavaScript, inheritance can be achieved by using a prototype keyword. That is why it is called prototypal. A prototype is nothing but it is a blueprint or a sketch. It's a plan, master plan, I can say. It is a blueprint of a object or a class. In ES6, we have an option, classical inheritance. So I'll try to explain about that. Maybe once I'll complete ES5, my dear friends. Now, that is all about, inheritance. Next, let me talk about polymorphism. So in the same example, objects in JavaScript only, I am explaining polymorphism. So let me explain. Last, I am going to explain polymorphism. First of all, you people have to understand what is polymorphism is all about. See, polymorphism is a mechanism. So here, poly, many, morphism forms an ability to make use of one form into multiple ways, which is called polymorphism. Guys, even under polymorphism, function overloading, function and operator overloading. These two guys comes under polymorphism. In case function overriding is not comes under polymorphism, overriding is a it's a drawback, I can say. Overloading is advantage, but overriding is a drawback. So here, if you try to see, someone is asking, can P discount can be accessed by student object, sir? Yes, we can. Yes, how student bus? It is highly impossible. Student object is completely different definition. Product object is different definition, because we are using inheriting product object. It is not possible to access in student object. There is no relationship, right? Suhail Approach. So there should be some relationship, right? Since there is no relationship between these two, that is highly impossible. Hope you got answer from your question. Okay, next, what I'm trying to explain, function overloading and object operator overloading. These guys are concept of polymorphism. But polymorphism is also one of the best principle in object-oriented JavaScript. Now, let me just give you one simple example over here. Now, add product is there, and GST calculation. Let me add complete, GST calculation. Now using prototype, I am going to add product. You see here product dot prototype inheriting dot GST calculation equal to, I am anonymous function we are assigning. For this function, see, we need a price, the total amount and GST percentage. And the default, you see here, the default parameter value we are setting here, 18% I am just giving default. Internally, return and the amount plus I'm calculating the GST value for a total amount star GST percentage division by 100. This is what the formula for calculating GST. Now this GST calculation, you see here, by using any of the instance which we have created for a product, you will be able to access this GST calculation member. Now here I am just accessing a member. You see here by using POBJ3 console.log, I am planning to print that into a reserve console tab log. Now POBJ3 is a recent instance which we have created for class product dot GST calculation. Now the definition of GST calculation is expecting how many parameters? It is expecting 2 parameters. Next, what I am trying to explain here, GST calculation, since the definition is expecting 2 parameters, amount and GST percentage. Now I am going to pass only amount. Let me pass amount 1000. Now go and check this. If I open in a browser, you go to the console. What is the line number 82? POBJ3.GST calculation. It is returning 82. Yeah, in the 82, 1180 it is printing. 1182 it is printing. 180. Guys, listen. At the same time, the same method, the ability to make use of one form in a multiple ways. That is same method. I'm just passing 1000 and one more, 50%. The second parameter I am passing. Now, if you reload, you can see that 1500. Now, let me see. You see the definition, whatever we have written, an ability to make use of one form into multiple ways. That is what it is applicable here. GST calculation is one definition, and that definition by passing a different parameters. One parameter, if you are passing, it is also giving an output. If you are passing two parameters, also it is giving output. Why? Because second parameter, if you are not passing, which will try to collect default value for a computation. If you are passing second parameter, the second parameter is it is overriding now. Someone is asking about a difference between overriding and overloading. Now overriding, you see here line number 83, I pass a second parameter. The value of a second parameter here is 50. I pass to your definition, then it will go back to your definition that 18 is overridden with passed value 50. Overloading is nothing but when you are passing here, one parameter we are passing, second overloading. We are loading with the two different parameters. This is called as overloading. If one definition is being passed with the different parameters, which is called overloading. Whereas coming to overriding is nothing but even this is parameter overriding, and you can also override the methods. Generally, overriding is a drawback, I can say. See, let me explain overriding in general. If your dad also has a car, make sure that you are also planning to buy a same car. If your dad also has a car, if you are also buying the same car, then what is the point? It is a money waste for you to invest on a same car. In case if you are buying a different car, it is fine. But if your dad is also has a Audi car and you are also buying a Audi car, then it is completely a time waste and money waste for you to invest on the same car. Even in object-oriented programming, overriding is a drawback. If the parent class has one function, if the child class is also having the same function, same definition, then the parent class function is overriding with child class function. In that case, the parent class method is never going to use because it is overriding. Then what is the definition? What is the point of inheriting parent class method which is not been utilized it? That is where you please try to understand when you are working on projects, overriding you should avoid. That is one of the drawback. Okay. Next. Next, see, this is, since we have used a function, this is called function overloading. Then let me give what is an example for how operator overloading. Guys, the best example for operator overloading is plus operator. In general, in JavaScript, the plus is additional operator. If the operands are, for example, you see here, I'm just giving an example for operator overloading. Operator overloading example. Now, if you come back, now let me use operands. For example, A comma B comma C. All three of them I'm just defining all three of them, and I'm assigning the values. A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20. Whereas coming to C is equal to A plus B. Now you see here, if I'm printing console.log C value, we are going to get the sum of 10 A plus B, 10 plus 20, that is 30. C, 30 value it is going to print. Guys, you see, listen. Now in the console you can see 30 value printed in line number 125. But in case if b is equal to, let me see here, I'm just changing the type of b from number to string. I am changing. Now the plus, if the both operands are numbers, the plus is acting as arithmetic operator. If any one of them are string, then the plus is going to use it as concatenation operator. You go and check. Now it is not 30, it is 10, 20. 10, 20 is merged. Both of them are merging. Now concatenation, the plus is acted as a concatenation operator. Hope you people are aware of what is this operator, overloading. Now we are overloading operator. In a different scenarios, we are using same operator in a different way. That is called operator overloading. Sometimes you people will also feel I am overloaded. How? Too many tasks, if your single person is doing, that person is overloaded. Same way, if single operator is doing multiple tasks, multiple jobs, that is called operator overloading. If single function is taking care about multiple tasks, that is called as function overloading. And overriding is it should be an error. There is an error. Guys, that is not an error bus. In JavaScript, even no matter if the operands, now a is number, it is not integer. Integer data type is not there. It is also considered as number. Someone is asking how this plus is going to act as concatenation. That is how in JavaScript, if the operands, now see here in the operation, A and B, A type is number, B type is string. That is why the plus is acting as concatenation. It is concatenating 10 and it is concatenating with B. In case both the operands, both of them are numbers, the plus is going to act as arithmetic operator. That is what I am explaining here. The data science. You please try to understand in JavaScript, if both the operands are numbers, the plus is going to do arithmetic operation. If any one of them are string, the plus is going to act as concatenation. That is a fundamental rule of a JavaScript. Anyone, if see, for example, I'm just changing 10 as string. Now you see vice versa. If you go on reload, it should also give a same output. Okay, this is an example for polymorphism. And encapsulation we have already created, wrapping up a data into a single unit. And inheritance also we have explained how to inherit the existing class. Then abstraction, I'll try to come back. So because guys, abstraction is for hiding up a data. In JavaScript, the abstraction is not going to be used much. Why? Because in front end, in front end generally it sounds like now however government is saying by lockdown, government is thinking that they are going to protect the public. Now the spread is already there, and now it is tough to control a coronavirus. Now everyone are pretending as if everyone are trying to control, but it is highly tough. Why? Because this is a virus bus. Since the virus is spreading, it is some people are saying it is airborne. We are doing overactions, but these overactions are not going to help us anyhow. Try to maintain a social distance and avoid meeting the people, and somehow you can even away from infection. That's what we can do it. Same way here when it comes to JavaScript. In JavaScript, every code is transparent. if you go, let me see here, if you go back to any web page and if you open ExcelR website also, all the front-end code, so you can see here, right click and inspect. You will be able to see that all the front-end code that you will be able to see it here. Now, if you are writing the main important business logic in front end, then is it possible for you to provide a security? It is highly impossible. That is why when you guys are writing a project, make sure that you should always write secure logic in middleware. You should not even write a secure logic in client side. See, in your house also, if you have a gold and diamond, try to protect them by putting them inside a secret lockers. If you are keeping them inside a hall, and if you are expecting nobody should not take, it is highly impossible. Why? Because you have exposed it. That's why when you are working on a project, we should also know what sort of code that we have to expose, what sort of code we should not expose. This is very, very important, my dear friends. And see, someone is asking where A is equal to, let me go back. That's why the data abstraction, we don't want to worry more about. Abstraction is nothing but hiding up a data. Even security is also important when you are working on projects. You have to secure your code. You should not even allow certain code back to a different unauthorized people. But here in JavaScript, since HTML, all front-end logic is exposable, no need to worry about it. So then, see, the abstraction cannot be possible, boss. It is very tough. Then there is uglification. There are different advanced concepts are there. Those concepts are not really needed at this stage for you people. Now, what I'm trying to explain here, data abstraction is not much mandatory in JavaScript. That is what I'm concluding. So I hope we have already covered whatever the 4 best principles which are there in object-oriented language. The middleware can be a server side. Yes, it is server side. And someone is asking, see, for example, it's a very interesting question. A and B, both of them are strings. So A by B, let me go for the result, one more variable that I'm creating, comma D, I'm declaring D is equal to A by B. Then try to see the output of D. Now D is giving 0.5. See, I am talking about only plus. This division operator, so we'll work for only value. It is considering only value. It won't even consider the data type. But when it comes to plus, that's why operator overloading, I took an example of plus. I have not taken example of division. And if you are going for modulus, modulus is going to give a reminder as output. Now 10. Hope you people are understand the difference between division and modulus. Okay, so that's all. Next, let me talk about. So let me talk about exception handling. So exceptions, but generally when you are working on a real-time application, if any exceptions occurs during the runtime, we should also handle the exceptions. How are we going to handle? So for that, what I'm trying to say, we are going to use try catch. So let me create one example, exception handling. I'm creating one example, exceptions. So in case if you are planning to, for example, during the runtime, so in the compile time, if any exceptions occurs, developer will be able to handle that exceptions. But JavaScript always executes at runtime. If any errors are there, it is going to give. That is one of the drawback I can say, but that is how JavaScript is built with. Whereas coming to TypeScript, it executes at compile time. That is why. So TypeScript even more faster than JavaScript. But unfortunately, TypeScript is completely derived from JavaScript. It is a superset of JavaScript, I can say. Now, exceptions. How are you going to handle the exceptions? So many people are already aware of try catch. So in case if you are writing some sort of code, now let me write that code script. Now try, within the try, we have to write all the code which you would like to execute. Now guys, listen carefully. I am just executing while loop. While, so in order to execute while, first initializer, so where I is equal to 0, I lesser than 10, I'm just giving, so let me execute it, alert or console.log. So let me print, welcome to exception handling. One output that I am planning to print inside a console. So next, catch. So here, within this catch, what we are going to write, so we are just checking here console.log. In this, we should catch any exceptions which occurs during the try. Occurs during the try block execution. This is all about handling exceptions. Now, finally, will also be there. This is also one more console. This block will execute no matter. This block executes no matter if any errors are there. I mean to say any exceptions are there or not there. Exceptions there or not there. This is finally block which will execute. Now try and catch. This is very important. Then exception handling itself is the biggest drive that we don't want to take in this session. But kindly understand how are we going to handle the exceptions. Guys, by using try catch also you can handle, or in JavaScript there is an option for you to debug the code. So debugger is one of the keyword. You can also put a debugger keyword and you can test it. Now let me execute this code. Now see exception handling. Yes, it is. See, now the browser is blocked, guys. So can you guys tell me why browser is blocked? The reason is the syntax is wrong. You can even see when you are working with the loops, you have initialized here, but you forgot to increase the loop, initializer value. Now in this case, what happens? I value initialized with 0 and 0 lesser than 10. Every time the I becomes 0, then 0 lesser than time. Yes, that condition satisfies. It is going to print this. Then second time also 0 lesser than 10. It is executing infinite loop. So that's why we should not even write when we are working with infinite loops or loops. Make sure that you should have that proper incrementer. If you don't have that proper incrementer, infinite loops, it is going to cause the browser crash. Now I plus plus. Now rerun again. Close it. So the browser is freezed completely. Now close the tab and rerun again. So live link share check babu.
Oh, public color. Okay.
Now inspect an element, and if you go to the console, you can see that welcome to exception handling. This block execute no matter if an exception there or not. You see here this finally block. Someone is asking about what is finally block. Guys, listen carefully. The finally block will automatically exit if any exceptions occurs in try block or not occurs. This finally is going to execute. As a developer, you need not to worry more about this finally block and try and catch. In case if any exceptions are there in try block, you have to catch those exceptions within a catch. If there is no exceptions occurs in the try block, and catch is not going to execute it. Now, since our condition there is no exceptions during this execution of try, that's why my catch is not going to execute it. Sometimes the range error, some issues which occurs while working on real-time applications. In such cases, you have to write all the code which you feel that the exceptions are going to occur during the runtime. You have to put it in try, and you should also catch those exceptions. And exception handling, generally exceptions in middleware programming, people are going to write more. Why? Because we have to log all the errors. Sometimes if we are executing any cron jobs, schedulers in midnight, we never know whether your scheduler is completely executed or not. Then sometimes in the midnight, if the program, if you are executing, if it has any errors, and the next day the developer should also understand whether there is an errors or not. In order to check that, so the error log, we have to log all the errors into one file during the scheduler code execution. In such cases, we can even keep my code within try, and if any exceptions occurs, I can even keep logging them. And say, this is a positive scenario. Since it is a positive scenario, my expression is not going to execute it. Now, guys, let me see here. In case I'm just writing one more example here. So try. Within this try, let me define array. So where is equal to, I'm just defining some numbers. 2, 2, 3, 3, some numbers that I'm printing. So next, what I'm going to do, now array I have print. Now document.write. So let me print my array into my page. Next, so far this is positive. Now catch. In this catch, exceptions you have to capture. All the exceptions will be there in E. Now let me print that exceptions also. If any exceptions occurs, we have to print them inside my log. I have to log them inside my tab, console.log tab. Similarly, I should also capture my exceptions and let me print those exceptions. Either I can even push them into my file, or I can also print them inside log tab. E. Now you see here, even this code also not going to give any errors. Document.write array. Your array is printing into the document. But let me see here. Document.write student. Since student is not there in this page, this is there in another file, student info, something like that, which is nowhere related to in this file. Now when we are keeping, you see here reference error. This is the exception. Guys, this exception, we handled it. So in case if you are not handling like this, what happens if you are not writing under try catch? Now if you copy this code, and JavaScript is going to throw the error and it will try to stop it. You see here. Now under console tab, you can even see that error. Now since it is interpreter, it interrupts the code execution. That's why the exception handle, it will try to avoid to display the errors, and you can even handle that errors. It is for developers. Developer can even easily log those errors, and he will be able to find that errors, and he can write the solution for that error. Now you see here, array you have declared, and that is why you are able to write into the document, but student info which is not there. That reference error we are printing inside a console.log. That's why, so that browser is not even logging that in a console.log. So browser is directly printing that error within your catch block. Hope you people are aware of how are we going to go for try and catch. So this finally block, it is going to execute no matter if try has given any exceptions or not giving any exceptions. That is what it will definitely execute it. Finally block will definitely execute no matter whatever the error it occurs during the try. Okay, so that's all about exception handling. Then every time, see exception too much everywhere. If you are keep writing exception handling, if you are writing by using try catch, then which will also performance issues will come, my dear friends. That is why you should always go for a very few cases where you will feel that your program is going to give errors. In those areas only you have to put that code into try. And there is few more other manual way of handling exceptions is also there. Now you can also put a debugger to understand how this is debugging technique. It is not exception, but I am also giving debugging techniques for you guys. Now you see here, E is an instance of a exception which is raising. Now guys, listen carefully. And debugger I put when I am executing. You see here the JavaScript parser, wherever it identifies debugger keyword, and which is allowing developer to execute step by step. Now sometimes you are writing too much of code, think that, and you never know what sort of problems which are there, and you wanted to check your code how it is executing, and each stage what sort of values which have been assigned to your identifiers. If you wanted to check them, then you have to use debugging techniques, problem solving techniques, debugging techniques, exception handling. This is very important for a developer. And if you are good at all these three areas, and you can become expert developer. Identifying a problem itself, that is very, very important art for a developer, boss. Even if you see Corona, and anybody can give a solution, but identifying why Corona is coming, how Corona is impacting on human body, that is where this pharma companies took almost 2 years, closely 1.5 years to identify what is the root cause of corona, how it is behaving. If the people know about what is the root cause, then giving a solution, anybody can give a solution. Same it applies here. When you are working on bigger applications, identifying a problem, that is the biggest achievement, my dear friends. Now, even general example, if you guys are going for hospital, think that okay, one hospital is conducting some sort of test to identify what is the disease. Same report, if you're taking to another hospital, they won't even accept it. Why? Because again, so there are two scenarios. Again, they don't depend on the previous hospital reports. Why? Because either previous hospital, if they would have done in a proper way, or if they could have not done in a proper way, again there will be a problem. Without understanding the proper root cause, if the treatment started, it can harmful to a patient. To avoid those kind of unwanted treatments, and the hospital will also again redo the test. That is one. Second one is hospital also need money. So that story is different. We don't want to talk about negatives. But everywhere, to identify a problem, people are kindly doing the test. That is trial and error. Same way, when you are working on a project, you should also do a lot of trial and error activities. Okay. Now a debugger is one of the technique you see here. Now I put a debugger in line number 9. This is one way of putting a debugger keyword, or you can also put debugging point. You see here debugging directly. I can also put a debugger point. Now here there is a next function call. If you put a function call, it will take you to the next line. You see I is initialized with 0. Now on top of I, if you hover on top of I, whatever the value which is associated. You see here next, while I lesser than 10, those who are completely new, those who are feeling development is tough, for them this debugging technique will be definitely helpful for you to understand how the program is working behind the scenes. Okay, next, you see here, now I value 0 lesser than 10. Yes, while condition is true, the statements which are there inside a block is going to execute. Now every time you see here, condition is checking and it will execute a statement. Condition is checking, execute the statement. Condition is checking, execute the statement. And increment. Now at last, now you see here I value, and in this iteration I is 7. Still it is true. Execute the statement. Now here you see I value is 9. Next iteration I becomes 10. 10 lesser than 10, it is fails, then it will come outside of a while loop. You see here, it immediately gone to a finally block. Why it has not gone to a catch block? Because there is no exceptions occurs during this try block execution. That is where catch is not executing. This is how you can also debug. Hope you people are aware of it. This is how every language, no matter if it is JavaScript or Java, C, C++, everywhere this exception handling techniques will be there that we can use to handle the exceptions during the runtime. Okay guys. Next, I'm going to talk about regular expressions. One more important topic, regular expressions, which is also called as pattern matching. So why do we go for regular expressions? In order to validate user inputs, we may have to use regular expressions. Again, I'm repeating, in order to handle user inputs, to test whether information which is given by a user is right or wrong, to handle that, we are going to use regular expression concept. How are we going to create a regular expressions? How are you going to test user input? That is what, let me give one example. So in the same example, I would like to talk about exception, and no, let me create a separate file. regular expressions. This regular expression in JavaScript, which is also object bus. Now I'm just creating. Which is called as pattern matching technique. Why we have to go for regular expression? So let me give a definition. Regular expression. Generally, regular expression, it is a pattern matching. It is a pattern matching technique. Pattern matching technique used to validate user inputs. So how are we going to create regular expression? So in JavaScript, regular expression object is already predefined. By using predefined regular expression object, you have to create an expression. How are you going to create expression? Let me first, just simple expression I am going to write. Guys, listen. I'm just creating one expression. REGEXP. Regular expression is equal to, let me create 0 to 9. One simple expression that I am creating. So this is starting point, / cap symbol and $/. Now dollar represents the end of expression, whereas coming to / cap represent the starting of an expression. And the expression we are writing within this square bracket. Now what does it mean? What is this expression says all about? And it is going to accept numbers in between 0 to 9. Only you can't even give. It matches a single character that must be between 0 and 1. It accepts single character that must be 0 and 1. In between 0 and 9. 0 and 9. That means that only numbers it is going to accept. Now this pattern I defined it. Whereas coming to my age, for example, age is equal to 20. I'm just giving value called 20. Now think that the information which I have stored in age, that information is given by a user. Think about it is user input. Now I must have to ensure my user input is following the pattern which I have defined. If it is not following the pattern which I have defined, I must have to give an error message for a end user saying that please enter a proper age. To validate a user inputs, these regular expressions we are going to use. If you are not good at regular expressions, you can also go for if-else. The conditions also you can use to ensure whether the information is properly given by a user or not. That way also we can do. For every problem, there will be multiple alternative solutions are there. Okay, so now how are we going to create regular expression? I just explained by creating one pattern, and if you wanted to create multiple patterns, you can also keep doing multiple patterns. Now generally in real time, we are going to use regular expressions in order to test whether the entered email is a proper email or not, or whether the number is entered by a user. For example, phone number field is there. We are going to ask user to enter only numbers. In case other than numbers, if user enters, we have to alert him saying please enter only a numbers. Sometimes users are smart kids. Those guys are going to enter numbers. In the place of numbers, if you ask, they can also enter characters. When they are entering, when they are giving the wrong inputs, we have to keep restrict them to not enter wrong inputs. So how are we going to take a decision whether he has entered a wrong input or right input? That is where we have to use either conditions, or we have to define a pattern, and that is the pattern where whatever the information that you need, according to that you have to define the pattern, and you must also always check your string with that particular pattern. Now, in order to test your user input along with your expression which you have created, that is where you are going to use one more method. How are you going to test? Testing user input. Testing user input. User input with the defined pattern. Testing the user input with this. Okay. Now my expression, my regular expression variable name is regexp. Guys, listen carefully. regexp. That test is a predefined method, and whatever the string to whom you wanted to test, EH. Now you please try to check what it is returning. I am printing the results into console.log. I am logging the results into the console tab. Now go on, execute it. If your expression is wrong, it is going to give an error. Now it is returning false. In case if I give only one character, it returns true. Hope you people are aware of it. Why? Because this 0 to 9, which we are expecting only one character, that must be in between 0 to 9. Since 20 I gave, the 20 is not in between 0 to 9. That is where this test method is returning false. If the expression, for example, now see, if it is returning false, now we have to put a condition. Sometimes if you are expecting, if it is equal to false, then I am going to give an error message, alert. I am giving a notification to the user, please enter number between 0 to 9. Go on, reload it. Now see here. Now, if you are planning to collect this number also from a user, or you have to use prompt. Prompt, enter age. Understand the logics which I am using, my dear friends. Boss, this is a crash course, and this is not a diploma course where we can even start from ABC. It is a crash course, which is we are explaining how much is required for us to build a web and mobile applications. Everywhere in software trainings, we don't want to learn unwanted stuff. If you are appearing for any certification or any other examination, you may have to learn important, unimportant, all other stuff. But here we have already crafted a curriculum in such a way that if you follow us, 100% you can able to build an applications. You need not to worry about it. You can get easily, you can lead your life in software companies. In case if you want more than one occurrence, then you have to go for a different way of writing. That we will do that later. Now first step by step you see here. Now if you are keep going, enter. I am entering 20. Now see, please enter a number between 0 to. Why? Because it is returning false always. Second time I am executing, I am just giving only 2. Now it is returning true. Then it is not given any error. In case, guys, if you want multiple occurrence, now plus symbol we have to use it. The plus symbol, now it is going to validate your user input that must be in between 0 to 9, and that can repeat multiple times. Now 20, if you click on 20, now still it is giving true. But other than 20, for example, I am expecting only a numbers. If user enters, for example, TWNT by 20. Now you see this is false. In such cases, since he has entered alphanumerics or alphabets, then you can even restrict them to not enter alphabets. Why? Because your input is expecting only a numbers. This is how, guys, the patterns that you can even define according to your requirement. This is one of the patterns that I define to accept only a numbers, which are in between 0 to 9, and the occurrence is many. Like that, you can also define a regular expression pattern for email. We can also define regular expression pattern for, capital letter. See, many cases, maybe if you guys are working on, maybe if you are creating a password for multiple applications, if you are setting up a password, the people are asking you to use one capital letter at least, one special character, or one number, or one small letter. These 4 kind of rules that people are using. Now, if all the rules you can create one pattern, sir, why 20 is giving true? Why? Because we have used a plus symbol. Why? Because the plus means it is going to, allow user to select a numbers in between 0 to 9, one or more occurrence. You cannot use backslash, you should go for forward slash. Okay guys, so this is how you can even create, because this expressions max to max, as I already said, you have to go for an email pattern, or you must have to go for alphabets or alphanumerics or special characters. Some patterns which are available in Google, you can even copy paste. And as I already said, when you are working on development side, if you are using any new technology, then new technologies which we don't have too much of information in internet. Why? Because they're just born. Whereas coming to the technologies which are born years ago, in Google we have plenty of information available. That's why, my dear friends, working in front-end side is dead easy. 20% of the logic that we are writing, and whereas coming to 80% of the code that you can copy paste. Now I'm just explaining you how are we going to search in Google. That is also one of the technique. And if I wanted to validate email in JavaScript, you see here, you are not only you searching, many people is already searching. Now in order to validate an email, search in Google. Google will give you a lot of examples. Now any Java point or Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is one of the popular website where we will get answers for most of the questions. Now if you are a good developer, you please try to create. You can create a Stack Overflow account. If you're not giving answers for a questions, it's fine. At least you try to create an account and you try to access the answers. Now you see here, my dear friends, one expression. See, don't try to understand what is this expression is all about. Copy paste the expression, and if you are good at regular expression, you can even still decompose this and you can understand. Now you see here one function. I'm just copying this function. Now I'm going to create this function in my development. Now for this validate function, you see here how I am just using. Now where user email, I'm just collecting it from a user. Prompt, please enter an email. Now the entered email is a proper email or not, I must have to check. To do that, validate email is a function which is going to validate. You see here, for this method, whatever the email that I collected from user, I am passing as a parameter. At last, this method is going to return the output. Now return value, let me put it inside alert and check what it is returning. Since I am calling a method, the method returning a result, I would like to check what is it is returning. Now age, I am entering age. Now enter email. Guys, let me give Murali@gmail. Just .com I am not giving, it is wrong. Now it is giving false. You see here it is false. In such cases, what you can do, if it is returning false, condition you can put here. If validate email function, if I am passing email parameter is equal to false, and I can still give an alert message saying that alert, please enter a proper email. Else, you can also give alert. Thanks for giving right email. We should also appreciate. Now go back and check. This is age. It's okay. Now email. Murali@m@gmail. Just an example. It is please enter a proper email is coming. Next second time, for example, let me reload. Here I'm just giving a proper email. Someone is asking ab.c, which is also wrong. Guys, generally the rule of email, alphabets and alphanumerics followed by @ and alphabets and alphanumeric followed by dot and either 2 or 3 characters. After that, either 2 or 3 characters. That is what your pattern is checking. At last you see either 2 or, that is what your pattern. This pattern, if you read it properly, and you will get to know, it is going to validate only a valid email. It won't even check invalid email. But in HTML5, we also have input type email, but that won't even validate complete email bus. In HTML5, email element is going to validate if you are giving Murali@gmail. If you are not giving .com or .in, .org, if you are not giving dot after dot, if you are not giving a domain, commerciality, then which will easily take. That is what input type email. It won't even validate complete email. We should always, even if you are using HTML5 input type email, we should go for a proper validation in JavaScript. Now you see here, and instead of rewriting the code from the scratch, I copied from internet and I have used according to my requirement. So that is where you guys have to copy the code. 80% of the code that you will get it in Google, and you should also know how to copy paste. Okay, so this is all about regular expressions, and so regular expressions is a pattern matching that you can even define your own pattern and your user input. This here, the test method is there, and also there is one more method called match method. Now the difference between test and match you see here. If you are using match method, M-A-T-C-H, match. Now line number 19, it will also return. Thanks for giving right email. You see here, the test method is returning true Whereas coming to match method is returning the input which we have given. It is matching and it is giving input whatever we have given. In case if you are giving, let me keep giving a wrong age also, I am giving 20 TWNT. I'm just giving alphabets. Now go back, and this match method is returning null. If it is not matching the input which user is given, if it is not matching with the expression, then match method returns null. If it is matching, it will return the entire value. Whereas coming to the test method, it is going to return true or false. On successful match, it will return true, and failure it is going to return. And also guys, regular expression, we can also create a custom constructor way. As I already discussed, constructor way of creating a regular expression or constructor way of creating a string or array or object. Object only it is useful, but remaining other cases, constructor way we should not use it. It takes a lot of time to execute. That's why we have to avoid this constructor way of execution. So especially when you are working on real-time applications, we should always use right concepts and which are executes faster. We should not even use. And difference between match and search. But match is matching your, see, if you look after this, now match method, it is taking your user input and matching with the expression. Test method, it is, first expression you are writing. The test method is checking the user input. Testing with user input. The parameter, for test method, you are passing string as a parameter. Match method, you are passing expression as a parameter. Whereas coming to the search, but search and index of, those guys are search techniques inside your string. Index of also search a character, whereas coming search will also search a character. But index of won't take regular expression. Using pattern match, you can't even search your character inside your string. Whereas coming to the search, it will try to take a regular expression also into string pattern matching. That is what the difference between search. The match and search, you can't even directly ask them. There is no much differences. I mean to say exact, because those guys are different. Match is for testing your string into regular expression. Search and index of both of them are same in order to check the respective string or respective character inside your string. One takes normal character, another takes regular expression. That is only the difference between index of and search. And also I think we have explained about DOM manipulation. Now guys, listen carefully. One more exercise that I would like to explain. How are you going to create a dynamic HTML in case when you are working on real-time live applications, if the backend team is giving data in the format of array of objects, how do you create a cards? Now for that, it's very, very important technique which I am explaining. So dynamic cards creation using js.html. Now in order to create, generally if you are working on live applications, the data always they will give in the format of JSON. So since we are not sending a request to the backend, what we are doing, so let me create a data model. So here students, let me create a students information, array of, I'm going to create object. Now student name is equal to Sachin and student image, photo of a student. Now Sachin URL, Sachin photo URL that I'm going to use it. Let me copy that URL from internet. Sachin Tendulkar. I will copy this image address. Let me give that image address into OM. My God, I don't want this bigger image, base 64 image that I have. Let me go for a smaller image. It's also base 64. So instead of using, let me download this, save images. I'm going to store it. This is WebP file. I don't want this WebP Sachin PNG file. PNG images. So let me download this. Save images. So I'm downloading. Go back to your documents, ExcelR. Inside images, let me save this one as Sachin. Now guys, I'm repeating the student information, Sachin. So let me go back. Images, Sachin.jfif. It is a new extension. Now only file name that we are using. And the place of student. Go for Mumbai. Now by using this information, I must have to create a card. Now you see I'm duplicating multiple students. This is how data we are going to get it from backend. 5 values, 6, 7, 8. Let me keep 8 values. Now if the backend team is giving data in the format of array of objects, how are you going to create a dynamic HTML? Now to do so, guys, listen carefully. Where dynamic cards is equal to, I'm creating one section. Next, this section I'm closing it. Please try to understand the logic. I'm just writing the logic. Closing. Within the section, I'm writing a for loop where initializer I0, I lesser than how many times? The students dot length, the number of elements which are there in LENGTH, I plus plus, lower brackets. Now dynamic cards. So here guys, I'm using a techniques plus is equal to, I'm using a backtick operator. Within this, you see here, I'm writing figure tag, figure, and within a figure, this is multi-line string which I'm using in JavaScript that can be used inside a backtick operator. Within that, I'm writing image, src, image, source. First, I have to display the photo of Sachin is equal to, within double quotation, the value I have to read it from my array of object. Now, students is my array of I. First iteration I becomes 0 dot photo. This is photo. But this photo is directly, it will give a name Sachin.jpg, but the path is wrong. Since we are inside JS example, you have to come one step backward, then the photo is there inside images. That is where one step backward, double dot forward slash, one step backward, images is a folder, slash, then the file name. Then alternative text is equal to double quotations, $. You should also familiar with HTML. Now let me go for a name. Now I'm planning to give caption and place. Figure caption. Fig caption. So within this fig caption, I wanted to give a name of that figure. Now student of I dot name. The same alternative text, whatever we are giving a name, same we are also giving. Now image, we have to close it here, my dear friends. Now Control Shift D, in the place of place also I'm just giving. Now this figure, since I keep it inside my loop, the loop is going to create multiple figures with multiple images and caption. Now all of them here plus equal to is going to concat. At last, document dot write. Now dynamic cards. Let me write it into a page. Now guys, listen carefully. Go back and execute this file into your browser. Now something is not working. So you see here there is error. Unexpected identifier in the line number 12. Go back and check what is the line number 12. Unexpected identifier 12. Yes. I made a mistake. So everywhere I have to give a comma. Because each key, right after key, I have to give a comma. 31, line number 31. Yes, here also I missed it. Now you see here all the figures one by one they are displayed. But now JavaScript, JavaScript duty is to collect the data and print it into a page. That's all. JavaScript can't even style. That style can be taken care by CSS. And how I am going to take styles, you see here, then internal CSS I am writing. Style. My JavaScript part is done. Dynamically HTML created. Now here, section, the parent I am selecting. Let me make my parent as DisplayFlex. Then section space, as long as the moment when I make my section as flexible section. Guys, now you see here all 8, how many images are there? 8 images, 8 members are displaying in the same row. But I don't want to display all 8 members in the same row. Section space figure. For this figure, I'm going to use flex 1. This is CSS, guys. And also the margin will be there. That margin also flex 1. Next, margin I wanted to remove. Margin which is default given by a browser, I wanted to make it. Now, next, see, somehow still it is going outside of a page. Now what we have to do? So let me go for flex wrap. We are going to use wrap. I wanted to wrap when the page reaches, now the element is going to wrap it. Now you can see that there is no next. What you supposed to do? Here you have to give some border. For each figure, I'm going to give border. Solid hash. Also, I'm going to give border radius. We give 10 pixels. Now if you wanted to give a gap between each one of them, then margin already I made it 0. Then top and bottom I'll just make it 0. Left and right let me keep it 10 pixels, so that the gap between each one of the card is going to come like this. Now see, the image is also taking too much of space. Then what you can do, select image. This is all about creating a dynamic HTML, and so I can use width is equal to 100%. Within the parent, it will try to properly fit. Now here the text is also very close to the, now in such cases I can also give padding. Padding increases the space within the box, within the element. Now this is looks more beautiful. This sounds like a card. Flex wrap means. That is why I request all of you to join the session regularly. Then it will be easier for you guys to follow. The flex wrap is nothing but in case if the items are going outside of a page, if you are planning to wrap them into a next row, that is called, I think, recording. This is recording, right? It's a live, since every session is recording. So you people can even, once if you are missing any class, you can also go back to our channel and you will be able to read our sessions. Okay, I hope you people understood this. This is how, guys, now CSS part, forget about it. Now HTML, this is very, very, very important. This is sounds like many places we are getting a data in the real-time applications from a backend in the form of JSON object. Then by using this concepts, now plus equal to, now it is sounds like assignment operator. We are assigning one string, and for the same string we are keep concatenating. The plus equal to is going to concatenate. Now see the code. Now this dollar notation, which is available only ECMAScript 6, it is easy for us to keep concatenating with a multi-line string. Multi-line string, this backtick represents multi-line string. See, dollar string we have used to read the values from your array of objects and binding the data into our attributes. That is what the dollar symbol we have used to bind the data. Now in the place of, instead of using Sachin everywhere, you can also use Sachin, Virat Kohli, any other images if you change. This is going to, hope you people are aware of it. Did you guys have any questions? Now that's all. If I wanted to start a new topic, so I don't have enough time, then we'll try to start. This is all about JavaScript. I think most of the concept that we have covered. And next class I'm going to talk about AJAX. And this week we'll try to complete AJAX and other prerequisites in order to go for JavaScript. I think there is an option for you to register now. ExcelR team is going to you can even ask ExcelR team to send the registration link for this particular course. So let me explain the code once again, my dear friends. Now see how ultimately we have to generate section. Along section is a parent. Inside the section, multiple figures that you have to generate. That is what your ultimate goal. That's why you see here the section tag which I have placed outside of a loop, and closing of a section also I have placed outside of a loop. Then the figure to whom I would like to generate multiple times, I have put it inside a for loop. As we already discussed, for loop can be used only when if you can predict the number of times that your loop is going to execute. Since I know my students dot length, so I can predict how many values are there. That is where I have used for loop instead of going for while. Next, see in the backtick operator. So in the multi-line string, if you are planning to concatenate the data into multi-line string in JavaScript ES6, the dollar notation introduced. The dollar notation is a data binding technique in multi-line string. Dollar flower brackets. In case if you're not using dollar, then you must have to go for plus equal to. There are a lot of unwanted code that you must have to write it. To avoid this, you please try to go for this backtick operator. Inside backtick, backtick will allow developer to write multi-line string. Within multi-line string, if you wanted to read a variable, if you wanted to add a value of a variable or object, anything that can be placed by using dollar and flower brackets. This is a data binding technique. Okay. So any other further questions? So Himavat, are you there?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Can you please share the attendance link for them? They keep on asking about attendance.
Yeah, I already shared it, sir.
Guys, attendance link is already been shared. Don't worry much about attendance, and it is already shared. Please try to use that link. So my team is already shared couple of times, not even one time. It is couple of times it is shared. Again, it is shared. Then, is there any other questions with respect to the today's concepts? See, for generating a server data into your browser, we need middleware, and by using AJAX, we will be able to send a request to your middleware, and middleware is going to process the request, and it has to send the data back to the client. That is completely a setup that we must have to do it. Now, since we are talking about only client side, and that is where I created a sample data here. This is the sample data which I have created. Moving forward, this sample data is being converted into a live data. Escape character. See, in the regular expression, guys, generally, see, if you in a string, if you are started with a single quotation, again within the string, somewhere if you are planning to use a single quotation, what happened, Himansu? Himavat? So if you are planning to use a single quotation again within your single quoted string, that is where we are going to use forward slash, backslash. Can we do regular expression? Yes, sir.
No, nothing, sir. I forgot to unmute. Means mute myself.
Okay, no issues. Can we do regular expression checking for every element on a page? What is the point of going for regular expression checking every element? Boss, you cannot even write your own code. You have to write a code according to the requirement. This is not an examination where you try to write unwanted story, Bahubali 2, Bahubali 3. Don't even, recreate your own, and you cannot. Why? Because I'm telling you, in examinations, if you write some stories also, maybe you may get some marks. But in compiler or interpreter, if you write some stories, which is going to create errors. So I'll try to explain AJAX tomorrow. I'll try to create a couple of examinations and I'll explain. Guys, we are upskilling. We are helping you to upskill your knowledge. This knowledge will definitely help you to get a job. If you are not working, see, if you don't have a proper knowledge and expecting a job, that is, so sounds like, it is something like without a money you are planning to travel. Now, knowledge is very important. That is where ExcelR is helping everybody to upskill your knowledge. So, sir, I would like to change the images with some interval at the same place. How can I do that? No, that can be taken care by set interval. One method is there, but why you wanted to hide it? But generally, the data we wanted to show for end user as quickly as possible. Why are you planning to delay it? See, for example, if you open a page, every information is loaded. The image is taking some time. Meanwhile, if the image is not loading, end users are not going to stay. Everybody are looking out to improve the page speed, but why are you making data to be delayed in painting into a page? Sandeep, then if you wanted to do that, you can go for set interval, or set timeout is one of the method. You can also do that, but those guys are performance blockers. AJAX takes the data from middleware. Yes, AJAX takes the data. AJAX is a technique which will be used to send a request from client side to a server and collect the data from a server and update the client without reloading the entire web page. A portion of a web page can be reloaded by using AJAX. Guys, when you are talking about image path, there is absolute and relative path is there that we already discussed, I think, when we discussed about HTML when you are using image. Now, single dot represents current directory, 2 dots / represents previous directory. Maybe if you guys are familiar with command line, cd .. cd // cd .. it will take you to the previous directory. cd / it will take you to the root directory. What is the difference between encapsulation and abstraction? Encapsulation is a mechanism where you can even wrap the data into a single unit. Abstraction is for security, to abstract your data or properties or members. Unlike other programming languages like Java or C++, we do have access specifiers like public, private, and protected. So by using them, we are going to protect it. And guys, and from today onwards, and let us wind up the session by 8:45. Himawat. Why? Because I should go to my home, and that curfew times are changed, right? 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now the police siren is coming, and I wanted to leave, or else I have to stay in the institute. From tomorrow onwards, please try to start the session maybe 6:45 to 8:45, that we can change the timings. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, my dear friends, today, and thanks for your participation. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. Stay home, stay safe.